Welcome to the Vineet Loya Show. The goal of this podcast is to share the knowledge and wisdom I accumulated from various sources, such as listening to amazing podcasts, or watching creative videos, TV shows, and movies, or reading insightful books, or having meaningful conversation with people in real life. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did while creating it.
Hi. Recently, one of the famous Bollywood actor committed suicide because he was dealing with depression. And I know that it might seem easier to judge someone who have taken away their own life because we don't know what they are going through. But I do know what depression feels like. I'm certain that most of us have felt the waves of depression. But depression itself is a very complex and relative issue because every one of us are going through a different life experiences. So how we perceive life is completely different. And what it means to be depressed is also different from person to person. But one of the feelings which I experienced when I was going through my depression, and in some sense still am, but some of the feelings are this feeling of emptiness. And this emptiness feeling is not just temporary, it feels like an endless cycle. I can just talk about my experience. I cannot put my words into somebody else's experience. But what I personally feel is that depression, in a way, has its positive effect. Because I started feeling depression after I did everything which the society says you should do in order to become happy. So, after completing my master's, I found a job and I was working at that job for 2 or 3 years and then I started feeling this emptiness within me, and that was eating away me from inside. Then I reflected back at what I was doing, how I was doing. Are there any reasons which are causing depression or adding on to the depression? Because if depression gonna be an underlying layer all the time, and if I'm piling up on that because of my choices and action, it's like creating a perfect storm, because I'm creating these situations where one thing leads to another and it spirals me down into the black hole of depression. Once I started practicing meditation and start being more mindful about my surroundings, I started to feel more in present instead of being lost in the thoughts. And that's one important aspect of it, because depending on what type of sequence your thoughts are running on, you might feel hard to come out of those thoughts at some point. So that's why these resetting experiences of, say, meditation, mindfulness, or psychedelics can help you to pause those thoughts and look at everything from a different point of view. And then you'd be like, this doesn't make sense. Why am I doing this, which is causing more harm to my personal life? We do have this innate self-destruction button within ourselves. I'm not sure why, but we do. Sometimes it comes up in the times of sacrifice. So, when we are selfless enough to sacrifice ourselves, that's a good side of it. But plenty of times this self-sabotaging comes when we are dedicated to do something. Like, if you want to be creative and want to put in your hard work onto some craft, this self-sabotage, this resistance will pull you out of that work and will self-sabotage your growth altogether. There might be some evolutionary use for that. Some of the tools which helped me and probably can help you as well to relieve yourself from this depression is to gauge how satisfied you are with your life altogether and in different areas of your life. Because once you start gauging your satisfaction, then you'll be able to kind of write down what might be some of the reasons which is adding on to depression. I'm not saying that a specific area of your life is a cause of depression, because again, it's a complex issue, but it can very well add on to it. So let's just say if you just lost a job, and if you're feeling depressed about it, it pile on to your depression. And let's just say on top of that, if your physical health is deteriorating, then that add more pile on that. And the more piles you add on to that, say, depression layer, it pulls you down even further. Just looking at it from different angles, it would be helpful to kind of gauge your satisfaction in different areas of your life. Like, how satisfied are you with your relationships? Whether it's friendships, whether it's romantic relationships, whether it's something deeper, connection with the universe, or however you want to label it, or how happy you are, not just in the moment, but say consistently for past 6 months. Do you feel happy? Do you feel that there has been more moments of happiness versus more moments of sadness in your life? So that can help you to kind of gauge your satisfaction level. And then physical health and mental health, these are pretty easy to gauge. I mean, from satisfaction level, how energetic you feel physically, not just today, but for the past 6 months or for the past year. If you see a pattern within your recent life where you are feeling that your energy is drained off, and if you do, then what could be the plausible reasons for that? There are so many different factors which can lead the drain of energy. And likewise, on the mental health standpoint, how stressful you feel. Is that stress warranted? Is it just because, a client emailed you, which is causing you stress for no reason? Or is it some sort of phobia within you? If you're, claustrophobic, then if you confine yourself into a house during this lockdown period, it could trigger a phobia within you, or any other PTSD you have suffered in the past and haven't worked on it. So these are some of the things which could pile on to your mental health issues altogether. So you can list out the satisfaction with your physical and mental health. List out how satisfied you are with your career, with your finances, and overall with your growth. Like, how much did you grow in the past year? If you can put a number on it, then write it down, how satisfied you are with your overall life. The other tool you can use is to write down the end goal of your life. Because sooner or later, we all will age and we all will die. So that's the truth of this reality. So instead of avoiding that, why not embrace it and project ourselves into the future and see what is the end goal of our life altogether? And personally, there are two cases, right? There would be a best case scenario and there would be a worst case scenario. If you're living your best case scenario, say, 30, 40 years, 10 years, whatever maybe the timeline from now, what that best case scenario looks like. What are your expectations from life by the time you die? And worst case scenario would be if nothing you did or are doing going to work out, how that will look like for you by the time you die. And the way I look at the best case scenario, it's pretty straightforward. Like, the goals I wanted to achieve in my life with minimal resentment and maximum satisfaction. And the worst case scenario, the way I look at it, is from the lens of stoicism, which is if I lose all the materialistic position I have at this moment, what would my life look like? And sometimes these worst case scenario can help you to fuel your life so that you don't end up at the worst case scenario. So it's important to kind of, just list out what you expect from the life and what you don't expect at all. And the most important part is to not stick with the worst case scenario, because if we give more energy to the worst case scenario, then we are in some sense breathing life into it. It's all fancy, it's all good to just explore that worst case scenario, but don't stick with it. Just go to the best case scenario, because that's where we want to focus all of our life energy. And the third thing is to understand that most of the life events are temporary. Whether it's a good thing or the bad thing, these are all temporary events. Sure, we might still feel depressed for an extended amount of time, but these depression will be enhanced if we are going through a temporary setback. So just taking a calm, deep breath during these temporary setbacks and understanding that this is not going to be throughout my life will help you to deal with these temporary setbacks. Hell, at some points, if you just even look at these setbacks as a life giving you a sign to focus your energy into some other direction, or just symbiotically work with these life signs and see where it is leading you. That might even help you, because plenty of times life give you the path of least resistance. And if you desire to, let's just say, start a business, but if you're trapped in a 9-to-5 job which you don't want to or don't like to, then maybe being fired from that job is a good thing, because the life is giving you a sign that you have to move on from something which you don't want to something which you do. And the biggest factor which helped me is to change the story which I'm telling myself, or change the lens altogether. And this comes with continuous, constant learning. The second I understand that I have no idea what's going on in the world, and not just that, nobody in the world have any idea. Nobody knows what they are doing. Everyone is making up in this moment. Some are able to use their prior experience, and that's why you can see them being more decisive, see them that they know what they are doing. But to be really honest, whatever you're experiencing in this moment, or whatever they are experiencing at this moment, they have never experienced it before. They might have experienced similar situations in the past, and that's what is helping them to make a better choice, make a better decision. The other tool is to build up your inner strength, because that is the single most important aspect of this life. And I'm not saying that people who are going through depressive times don't have inner strength. Again, because it's very complex and very relative. You may be strong internally. You may be the shield of your family for that matter. But at times, life throws you with different circumstances which shake away all that shield. I'm not saying that if you're going through a depression, it means that you're weak. It's opposite. I'm just saying that you still have energy within you to become stronger. It's like if you're going to a gym, and if you try to lift up 100 pounds very first day, the chances are you won't be. It doesn't mean that you're weak. It just means that you have to work on yourself so that you can lift up those weights. So that's what inner strength means to me. So some of the practices which I do to build my inner strength is meditation, is mindfulness, and occasionally psychedelics. And there are quite a few other practices as well, like sensory deprivation, like sauna, like working out, like putting myself in a healthier, stressful circumstances, like, going up on stage every single day. And that put like this nervousness, that built up this healthy stress within me. Whatever challenges you, one of the best way is to practice martial arts, because that will challenge you to the core. It's not just physical stress, but also a mental stress, and that builds your inner strength. And a couple of other things which I want to talk about is what you could do to come out of this depression. First and foremost, be hopeful. Be hopeful that whatever you're going through will fade away, and try to find a purpose. The whole glamour around finding a purpose is overrated. You can find purpose in your day-to-day life. When you're hungry, your purpose is to cook food and eat it. When you feel ignorant, then your purpose is to educate yourself. So find that purpose, and it doesn't have to be some granular purpose. The other mindset is to be grateful, because once you realize that what you do have in itself, something you should be grateful for, then it will alleviate the pressure for you to accumulate more wealth, accumulate more materialistic position. One thing which does help me personally is service. And let me tell you, I'm not the best person to talk about service, because I haven't served enough. I haven't served enough people. I haven't served enough beings or enough causes which I believe in, because I'm still battling through my own personal insecurities. There are multiple layers to serving as well, because when you serve, instead of focusing inwards, you're focusing outwards. So you're not being selfish, you're being selfless. And when you serve, you have a purpose. When you serve, you feel happy from inside. And in a lot of ways, what I'm doing right now is a service. And that's why I feel happy most of the times when I sit here and when I talk about these things. Find anything where you can serve somebody else, and that will definitely alleviate you from this depressive state.
Thanks for listening. I hope you find our one-sided conversation valuable. Kindly share it with people in your life. I would love to hear back from you. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Vineet Loya. Also check out my website vineetloya.com. Enjoy rest of your day and stay peaceful.